Welcome back. It is Saturday, October 8th, and I'm headed to the Aria just before 10 a.m. in the morning. Now, as a general rule of thumb, I never play in the morning, but there is a Padres-Mets wildcard game happening at 4 o'clock. I don't want to miss the game, and I haven't played the Aria Poker Room, which is really nice for a while, so here I am. I really hope you enjoy the video, so let's get into the action. Early on, I pick up 5-7 of clubs on the button. There's a raise to 18 from the big blind. The player in the low jack makes the call. I'm in position on the button, so it's kind of a no-brainer call for me. The player in the small blind folds, and we're off to a flop 3 ways. The flop comes out 3 king jack with 2 spades, which is a total whiff. It checks around. When the flop comes a 5 of spades, it checks to me again, so I decide to bet out $25. This gets a call from the original raiser and a fold from the player in the hijack position. I'm mostly concerned with another spade, so when the jack of clubs comes out on the river, it's quickly checked to me. I get an insta fold before I can even get my bet out. Here I pick up 3-5 of spades in the big blind. The player under the gun limps in, but there is a quick raise to $11 from the player to his left. There is another caller, a few folds, and I decide I'm going to splash around with my 3-5 of spades and make the call.
Okay, let's do this.
Did you
It's
say my last
11,
name?
right?
How do you know it? You can read it?
The flop comes out about as good as you can hope for when you're calling a raise with 3-5 of spades. I check it, and the original raiser puts out a $40 bet into a $36 pot.
Oh man, you got an overpair? Imagine why you would overbet that pot. Rainbow board, low cards. They're like 8s or something.
This just reeks like a protection bet to me. I don't put him on a huge pair. He offers to show me for $5, but I say, hey, you can just show me. And sure enough, turns over pocket 7s. Just a few hands later, I pick up pocket kings, which makes me feel like I'm the king of the world! I'm sitting in the big blind here, contemplating what size raise I want to make when the player on the button raises to 11, and there's a call from the small blind. I elect to bump it up to $35.
I went there the first time, had a really good session, won like $800, and I was just chastised.
Were they like, why would you let me limp in with my 7-9 offset?
Oh, one guy like went off and berated me because I outplayed him. So I was playing super tight. So then I bluffed him out of like so many pots. So he got super irritated.
After what feels like an eternity, I finally get a call from the small blind. Now being heads up, the flop comes out, and I go from feeling like the king of the world to
I'll never let go. I promise.
But when it's checked to me, I decide to put out a $50 bet. Now the player really goes into the tank here, but at some point he starts cutting out the chip. He's clearly considering making the call. That's when I say,
Ace Jack's not good.
I typically don't say things like this, but he has been enjoying some drinks, and frankly, if he makes the call, I'm pretty much done putting any more money into this pot. Now this seems to really freeze him up. Now this is all in 4 times speed. He's looking at me, looking at my chips. Before he eventually folds, he has some choice words for me.
I'm not fucking around tonight, but I'm pretty sure I got your ass.
Ace 7-9. Thank you.
Now, I did not know this at the time, but the player to my left raised blind under the gun to $7. It folds around to me. I've got ace-10, so I just make the call. This player was also enjoying some drinks, but I have to say was a pretty cool guy. So when the flop comes out 10-4-5, I am first in position and immediately put out an $18 bet. That's when he looks at his cards. I'm thinking, buddy, that is my move. What in the heck are you doing? But looks down at his cards at a queen 4 suited and folds. Not too long after, I look down at king 8 of clubs on the button. There's another limper, a call from the small blind. The big blind checks his option, and we are off to a flop 4 ways. The flop comes out pretty good for me as I flop top pair on a 2-8-4 rainbow board. The big blind bets out $10, which is promptly called from every other player in the hand, and we are off to the turn. All things considered, a 5 of spades pops off on the turn, which is pretty scary for my hand. Even more concerning than the bet size is the fact that the big blind continues with a $15 bet, which once again is called by everyone involved in the hand. So we're off 4 ways to the river. At this point, I'm kind of wondering, like, why am I in this hand? There's several straights on the board. The turn brought in a flush draw, but I guess I've come this far. I'm a curious person. I want to see what happens on the river. When the river delivers another 5, a 5 of diamonds, I'm thinking, how in the world can I be good? It gets checked down. I turn over my hand, and somehow it's the winner. Like, what just happened here? A short while later, I pick up Jack 9 suited, which is my all-time favorite hand. So when there's a bet to 10, I make the call in position on the button. We are now headed 5 ways to the flop, which comes out queen 7 deuce with 2 hearts. So I am now sitting on the button with a flush draw as well as some backdoor straight draw possibilities. With a $10 bet and a call from another player, it's an easy call for me on the button, and we are off to see the turn. I go ahead and bank the turn, hitting my flush draw. There is a bet to 20, which is called by another player in the hand. I decide on a smooth call. I am hoping to disguise my hand and put myself in a position for max value. So when the ace of spades comes out on the river, there is a prompt $25 bet from the initial aggressor. The player in the cutoff positions decides to call, and I decide to bump it up to $65. This gets a pretty quick call from the initial aggressor in the hand. The player in the cutoff, I'm pretty sure, has a pretty strong hand, but now with a raise and a quick call, he definitely has a decision to make. Ultimately, it's like, how much money is in the pot out there? So he thinks about it, but eventually decides to make the call. I turn over my hand, and to no one's surprise, I am good, and I scoop a pretty decent pot here. My stack has now grown to a little over $600. Apologies as I came into this next hand late. I made a raise to $12 with ace jack and absolutely kill it, flopping the nuts. The player 2 seats to my left, who's been pretty aggressive so far, quickly bets out 35. When the action folds around to me, I think he has a pretty decent hand, and I decide to bet out 100. The player to my immediate left takes some time to finally muck his cards, but the initial raiser quickly makes the call. The turn comes out not too favorable as it completes the flush with the 8 of diamonds, but it goes check check, and I'm really not too concerned about the flush draw. So when he decides to check the river, I opt on another $100 bet, which he quickly calls. I show the nuts straight, he shows ace queen, and I scoop a very nice pot here. There's really nothing like the feeling of scooping a big pot, and I have now grown my stack to a little over $800. A couple of hands later, I pick up once again pocket kings.
No, he's a very handsome man.
As I'm waiting for action to come to me in the small blind, there is a raise to 6 and a re-raise to 12. So when the action eventually comes around to me, I decide to raise it up to $50 straight. The table is really running pretty slow, with a few guys having some drinks and having a good time, but it is a very friendly table. Eventually the initial raiser makes the call. We get a fold from the other player in the hand and go to the flop heads up. This time around, the flop comes out very favorable with a 7-8-2 rainbow flop. I quickly throw in a $100 bet. My opponent here takes some time to think about, what I might have, looking at his cards, and eventually folds pocket jacks. Hats off to him. I thought it was an excellent fold, but just a few hands later, I pick up pocket jacks myself. That last hand definitely made me feel like maybe I'm playing a little too predictable, so I go against pretty much every piece of information out there about playing jacks and limp in. The flop is absolutely terrible for my hand with ace queen queen with 2 spades. The action checks around to me, so I go ahead and throw out a $12 bet, which essentially gets everyone to fold except for one player who decides to make the call. Now I'm all but ready to give up on the hand when the turn comes out a 10 of spades, giving me a gut shot and a flush draw. It goes check check, and bing! I hit the 2 of spades and get the flush the hard way. When the player puts out a $25 bet, it's just something I absolutely have to call. I make the call, and sure enough, my hand is good, going runner, runner, spades. Whew! A little while later, I again pick up my favorite hand in No Limit Hold'em, Jack 9 suited. I call a $10 raise, and we are off to the flop, two-handed. The flop comes out 7-10-6 with 2 hearts and a spade, giving me a gut shot straight draw, in addition to a backdoor flush draw. So when my opponent bets 15, I quickly make the call and absolutely bank the turn. I check. My opponent decides on a $15 bet, to which I respond to a raise of $45. He promptly makes the call. We are headed now to the river, heads up. I'm just thinking, do not pair the board, do not hit a heart. So when the river comes out, a giant brick in the 2 of spades, I think for a second, but decide, you know what? I'm going all in here. I think I can get a call out of him. He promptly calls. I turn over the nuts, scoop a very nice pot once again with my favorite hand. I am now up about $800 for about 3.5 hours worth of work, so I head to the cage to cash out. Big shout out to a new friend of the vlog who I played with. Super cool guy named Randy. It's very odd driving home from a session in the light of day. I want to give a huge thank you to all you guys who have supported the channel so early on. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment, and good luck out there.